Thank you very much. I'm actually really happy to be here. No, at least that's what I'm telling myself. I've never delivered a speech before, which is why I decided to do this tonight. I wanted to do something that I don't know how to do and offer you the experience of watching someone fumble, because I think maybe that's what art should offer, an opportunity to recognize our common humanity and vulnerability. So rather than being up here pretending I'm an expert in anything or presenting myself in a way that will reinforce the odd ritualized lecturer-lecturee model, I'm just telling you off the bat that I don't know anything. And if there's one thing that characterizes my writing, is that I always start from that realization. And I do what I can to keep reminding myself of that during the process. I think we try to be experts because we're scared. We don't want to feel foolish or worthless. We want power because power is a great disguise. I even feel odd calling myself a writer or a screenwriter. I do when I have to. I put it on my income tax form. But I feel like it's a lie, even though it's technically true. I write screenplays for a living, but it's not what I am. When I was young, I really wanted that label. I wanted to be something, I wanted to be a writer. There was this movie, Serpico, and there was a scene in Serpico where, Al Pacino is a cop, and he has an artist girlfriend, and there's a party scene where he's with all these different artist types, and they're saying, well, I'm a painter, but I work in a restaurant, and I'm an actor, but I work in an office, and this goes on for a while. And Al Pacino says, I'm a cop, and I work for the police department. And but there's that feeling when you say you're something, when you want to say you're something, and you have nothing to back it up, because everybody says they're a writer, or everybody says they're this or they're that. This is what I felt. And everyone else thinks it's bullshit. It's funny now that I don't want to call myself that, but at the time I did, and I think that it was necessary at the time, but now it doesn't feel necessary, because I think the thing I realized is that I'm not those things. I'm a person who does this, and I struggle with it. I think it was Thomas Mann who said that a writer is someone for whom writing is harder than it is for other people, which, I thought was pretty cool. I think that's sort of it. Is if you take it seriously, it's a struggle, and it's interesting to me that I've been struggling with this speech for a long time. I told them that I would do this months and months ago, and this has been my job in a way. I sit at my desk and I don't know what to do. And it is very much like when I have a job writing a screenplay. I think I wanted to do something true, and I wanted to do something helpful. And I think that what complicates it, in addition to the fact that that's a hard thing to figure out, is that I also struggle with wanting you to like me. And, in my fantasy, I leave here and people are saying, great speech, and not only is he a great writer, but boy, I really learned something tonight. He really brought it, and so as much as I know that this neediness of mine exists, I also have a difficult time extricating myself from it, or even fully recognizing it when it's happening, because it's a tricky thing. No one wants to come up here and bomb. It's really, literally the stuff of nightmares, I've had that nightmare a lot of times. And I know you want to be entertained, and so for me to calculatedly not entertain you in order to be true seems sort of selfish. So I find myself in this push-pull relationship with my opposing desires, which I think, is a big part of what characters are and characters do in real life. People in real life, characters in movies should. But I've gone through a lot of different versions of what this evening would be, and some have been really crazy. And, I was going to do a play. Trisha can attest to that. So they were very excited about it, and they were very excited about it, and so I was like, holy shit, now I have to do a play. Because I wanted Trisha to like me, and... but really, I don't know. But I ultimately sort of decided that I just need to sort of kind of come up here and be honest and not do a song and dance. So I've purposely kept it up in the air. I've taken notes, but I've kept it up in the air, and it's increased my anxiety 1,000-fold because I have notes here. I honestly don't know if this speech is 5 minutes or 3 hours. I don't know. I haven't timed it. I just have no way of knowing. But it is the way it is with my work, is that I do feel like you sort of need to stay where you are in the moment with the work. So I thought it would be helpful to start with this because if I were writing a screenplay about this event, I would spend a lot of time thinking about what this event is, how it feels to the person speaking, how it might feel to someone else, how it might feel to the audience, what it means to be an audience, both as a group, because an audience is an organism, but also made up of individuals, and I'll hopefully get to that later because I've written about that as well. But I mean, another thing this introduction has done is it sort of allowed me to feel like I can go ahead and do this by being upfront that all I am is a limited, struggling human being. And it allows me to kind of come up here and be a limited, struggling human being. I walked away from the mic. What I'm offering here as a kind of a thing to take from this is that it's important to free yourself in any way you can so you can do your work. Here's a quote that I found, a recent quote that I found. "We do not talk. We bludgeon one another with facts and theories gleaned from cursory readings of newspapers, magazines, and digests." That was actually written in 1945 by Henry Miller. And I mean, I think it's timely. And I think what it says is that the world has been on the present course it's on for a long time. People all over the world spend countless hours of their lives every week being fed entertainment in the forms of movies, TV shows, newspapers, YouTube videos, the internet. And it's ludicrous to believe that this stuff doesn't alter our brains. And it's also equally ludicrous to believe that, at the very least, this mass distraction and manipulation is not convenient for the people who are in charge. People are starving. They may not know it because they're being fed mass-produced garbage. The packaging is colorful and it's loud, but it's being produced in the same factories that make Pop-Tarts and iPads, by people sitting around thinking, what can we do to get people to buy more of these? And they're very good at their jobs. But that's what it is you're getting, because that's what they're making. They're selling you something. And the world is built on this now. Politics and government are built on this. Corporations are built on this. Interpersonal relationships are built on this. And we're starving, all of us. And we're killing each other. And we're hating each other. And we're calling each other liars and evil because it's all become marketing, and we want to win. Because we're lonely and empty and scared, and we're led to believe winning will change all that. But there is no winning. What can be done? Say who you are. Really say it in your life and in your work. Tell someone out there who is lost, someone not yet born, someone who won't be born for 500 years. Your writing will be a record of your time. It can't help but be. But more importantly, if you're honest about who you are, you'll help that person be less lonely in their world. Because that person will recognize him or herself in you. And that will give them hope. And it's done so for me. And I have to keep rediscovering it. Its profound importance in my life. Give that to the world, rather than selling something to the world. Don't allow yourself to be tricked into thinking that the way things are is the way the world must work, and that, in the end, selling is what everyone must do. Try not to. This is from E.E. Cummings. To be nobody but yourself in a world which is doing its best night and day to make you everybody else means to fight the hardest battle which any human being can fight and never stop fighting. The world needs you. It doesn't need you at a party having read a book about how to appear smart at parties. These books exist, and they're tempting. But resist falling into that trap. The world needs you at the party, starting real conversations, saying, I don't know, being kind. My first writing job was on a TV show called Get a Life, starring Chris Elliott. The show was really mostly in the voice of its creators, Chris Elliott and Adam Resnick. They had worked together on Dave Letterman's show, and Chris's character came from that show. So consequently, Adam Resnick's scripts were the best of the show. And we all tried to write in Adam's voice. That was the job. And I was frustrated with my results. But it occurred to me that there was no solution to this problem as long as my job was trying to imitate someone else's voice. I could maybe get close, but I was never going to get better at it than Adam. You know, Rich Little can't be better than Johnny Carson at Johnny Carson, you know. The obvious solution was not to throw my hands up, but try to find myself in a situation where I was doing me, not someone else. Do you. It isn't easy, but it's essential. It's not easy because there's a lot in the way. In many cases, a major obstacle is your deeply seated belief that you is not interesting. And since convincing yourself that you are interesting is probably not going to happen, take it off the table. Agree. Perhaps I'm not interesting, but I am the only thing I have to offer, and I want to offer something. And by offering myself in a true way, I am doing a great service to the world, because it is rare and it will help. As I move through time, things change. I change, the world changes. The way the world sees me changes. I age, I fail, I succeed, I am lost. I have a moment of calm. The remnants of who I have been, however, hover, depress me, embarrass me, make me wistful. The inkling of who I will be depresses me, makes me hopeful, scares me, embarrasses me. And here I stand at this crossroads, always embarrassed, wistful, depressed, angry, longing, looking back, looking forward. I may make a decision and move from that crossroads, at which point I find myself instantly at another crossroads. Therefore, there is only movement. A screenplay is movement. It is written in time and expresses a passage of time. It is made in time and it is viewed in time. It's a movie, it moves. That's 2 hours I'll never get back. It's a favorite thing for an angry person to say about a movie he hates. But the thing is, every 2 hours are 2 hours he'll never get back. You cannot hoard your 2 hours. So you are here and I am here, spending our time as we must. It must be spent. I am trying not to spend this time as I spend most of my time, trying to get you to like me, trying to control your thoughts, to use my voodoo at the speed of light, the speed of sound, at the speed of thought, trying to convince you that your 2 hours with me are not going to be resented afterwards. It is an ancient pattern of time usage for me, and I'm trying to move deeper, hoping to be helpful. This pattern of time usage paints over an ancient wound and paints it with bright colors. It's a sleight of hand, a distraction. So to attempt to change the pattern, let me expose the wound. I now step into this area blindly. I do not know what the wound is. I do know that it is old. I do know that it is a hole in my being. I do know it is tender. I do believe that it is unknowable, or at least inarticulable. I do believe you have a wound too. I do believe it is both specific to you and common to everyone. I do believe it is the thing about you that must be hidden and protected. It is the thing that is tap danced over 5 shows a day. It is the thing that won't be interesting to other people if revealed. It is the thing that makes you weak and pathetic. It is the thing that truly, truly, truly makes loving you impossible. It is your secret even from yourself. But it is the thing that wants to live. It is the thing from which your art, your painting, your dance, your composition, your philosophical treatise, your screenplay is born. If you don't acknowledge this, you will come up here when it is your time, and you will give your speech, and you will talk about the business of screenwriting. You will say that as a screenwriter, you are a cog in a business machine. You will say it is not an art form. You will say, here, this is what a screenplay looks like. You will discuss character arcs, how to make likable characters. You will talk about box office. This is what you will do. This is who you will be. And after you're done, I will feel lonely and empty and hopeless. And I will ask you for my 2 hours back. I will do this to indicate my lack of love for you. I will do this to communicate that you are a waste of time as a human being. It will be an ugly thing for me to say. It will be intended to hurt you. It will be wrong for me to say. It will lack compassion. And it will hurt you. And you will either dismiss it or take it in, but in either case you will hear it and it will affect you. And you will think about what you can do next time so you can be more lovable. And with that, your wound will be buried further. Or you will think about how hateful people are and how your armor needs to be thicker so that you can proceed as planned with your ideas. And with that, your wound will be buried further. As I'm sure you know, there is a fungus called Ophiocordyceps unilateralis. It infects the brains of carpenter ants, and it turns them into zombie slaves, more or less. What happens is that the ants climb to the underside of leaves near the forest floor, secure themselves to the leaves, then die, becoming a food source for the fungus. Eventually, the positioning of the ant corpse serves to allow the spores to burst out of the ant's head and rain down on other ants. This is true. And it's very successful. There's fossil record of this occurring up to 48 million years ago and to this day. The thing that's fascinating about this to me is that the ant is acting mindlessly against its own interests and the interests of its fellow ants by becoming a tool of the fungus. I think a similar system has evolved in our culture. When I first started to work in series television, I didn't need to take a course in how to write a half-hour comedy. I knew because I had been raised as a consumer of TV series. I understood the rhythms, I understood the types of jokes that were acceptable, I understood the stock characters. And of course, all of this was in service of the perpetuation of the same consumer culture that trained me and made me desire to be part of it. I was a zombie. It's a massive issue because the business I'm in is the same business that politicians and corporations are in. It's a business of selling something that's important to them by disguising it as something that's important to you. And it's ubiquitous. And I don't think it's symbiotic. As far as I can tell, the carpenter ants don't get a damn thing out of it. So my thinking as a carpenter ant is that I want to do what I can to understand my carpenter ant self and not mindlessly disseminate the fungal spores of my masters. I like that line, Chip. I think for me, the best way to begin to combat the systemic indoctrination is to look at intention. The aphorism, "the road to hell is paved with good intentions," doesn't ring true to me. I think intention is at the bottom of everything. My intentions are shifting and complex and sometimes at odds with each other, often. And if I know what they are and watch them closely as they slip and slide all over the place, I have a better chance of putting something honest into the world. And this is my goal, my own Hippocratic oath. I do not want to harm. I am painfully conscious of the harm that occurs when participating in the media with unclear intentions. I do not want to be a salesman. I do not want to scream, "Buy me" or "Watch me." And I don't want to do that tonight. What I'm trying to express, what I'd like to express, is the notion that by being honest, thoughtful, and aware of the existence of other living beings, a change can begin to happen in how we think of ourselves and the world, and ourselves in the world. We are not the passive audience for this big messed up power play. We don't have to be. We can say who we are. We can assert our right to existence. We can say to the bullies and con men, the people who try to shame us, embarrass us, flatter us, to the people who have no compunction about lying to us to get our money and our allegiance, that we are thinking, really thinking about who we are, and we will express ourselves, and with this, other people won't feel so alone. This is Harold Pinter. A writer's life is a highly vulnerable, almost naked activity. We don't have to weep about that. The writer makes his choice and is stuck with it. But it is true to say that you are open to all the winds, some of them icy indeed. You are out on your own, out on a limb. You find no shelter, no protection, unless you lie. In which case, of course, you have constructed your own protection and, it could be argued, become a politician. It's weird to be a human. We get to think about things. We get to wonder. This seems like quite a privileged position in the universe, and I wouldn't give it up for certainty. Because when you're certain, you stop being curious. And here's the one thing I know about the thing you're certain about. You're wrong. Of course, this is a paradox. How is it possible to know that you can't know anything? It isn't. It's just a theory. And I remain open to being proven wrong. This is also Harold Pinter. I like Harold Pinter. There never is any such thing as one truth to be found in dramatic art. There are many. These truths challenge each other, recoil from each other, reflect each other, ignore each other, tease each other, are blind to each other. Sometimes you feel you have the truth of a moment in your hand, then it slips through your fingers and is lost. That's the end of that. Because I'm going to go on now, and I just didn't want you to think it was Harold Pinter anymore. It's now this is me for a while. I think, yeah, it's me for a while. A manifesto is a valuable thing. It, as is everything else anyone tells you about how to do things, something to react against. It gives you a focus, a framework with which to say why. This is also true with any psychological or emotional insight you might have, or might read or see expressed. It's always a mistake to settle on any explanation for anything, because whatever you settle on, you will be wrong, even if you're right. Everything is ephemeral. Everything is in a constant state of flux. Thinking past any conclusion you've drawn will reward you with a more complex insight and a more compassionate worldview. This is something I'm constantly trying to learn and relearn. There's another quote that I like. This one's a little long, but I think it's good. It's by a guy named John Garvey. I am increasingly convinced that the need to be right has nothing whatsoever to do with the love of truth, but to face the implications of this means accepting a painful inner emptiness. I am not now what I sense. Somehow I am meant to be. I do not know what I feel from the bottom of my heart. I need to know. The beginning of wisdom is not to flee from this condition or distract yourself from it. It is essential not to fill it up with answers which have not been earned. It is important to learn how to wait with that emptiness. It is the desire to fill up that emptiness which leads to political or religious fanaticism. Think about your reaction to me. Think past it. Why do you have that reaction? Why do you react this certain way to certain things? What does your reaction have to do with your wants? How does it correlate? How would your reaction to what I'm saying change if I were older, younger, female, a different race, British? What does it mean about you that it would change? What does it mean about the subjectivity of your opinions? What if I was me but had a different demeanor? What if I was more confident, less confident? What if I was more effeminate? What if I was less effeminate? What if I was drunk? What if I was on the verge of tears? Think about all the assessments, all the interpretations that occur with each interaction. Think about all that you bring to each encounter. Multiply that by all the people here. How much is going on in this room? And how do we weave that into a movie? The challenge of multiple points of view forces us to come up with new solutions, to throw away conventional approaches. Movies tend to be very concrete in their construction of events and characters. It's a tricky medium in which to deal with interior lives, but I think it's really a great medium for it. Movies share so much with dreams, which of course only deal with interior lives. Your brain is wired to turn emotional states into movies. Your dreams are very well written. I know this without knowing any of you. People turn anxieties, crises, and longing, love, regret, and guilt into beautiful, rich stories in their dreams. What is it that allows us the creative freedom in our dreams that we don't have in our waking lives? I don't know, but I suspect part of it is that in our dreams we are not constricted by worry about how we will appear to others. It's a private conversation with ourselves. And if we're worried about it, this becomes part of the dream. I think if we were better able to approach our work this way, the results would be different. So what is a screenplay, or what might it be, since we're talking specifically about screenplays tonight? A screenplay is an exploration. It's about the thing you don't know, to step into the abyss. It necessarily starts somewhere, anywhere. There is a starting point, but the rest is undetermined. It is a secret, even from you. There's no template for a screenplay, or there shouldn't be. There are at least as many screenplay possibilities as there are people who write them. We've been conned into thinking there is a pre-established form. Like any big business, the film business believes in mass production. It's cheaper and more efficient as a business model. But I don't want to talk about that aspect of screenwriting. Here's what I know about a screenplay. Simply that it is a text that describes what happens in a movie. And I'm not even sure about this definition. I think what might make this form of endeavor exciting for writers is that they find themselves in an environment where they are encouraged to use their powers to explore the world, their minds, and the form itself. Think about the staggering possibilities, the marriage of light, vibration, and time. I think craft is a dangerous thing. I saw a trailer. Did you call them trailers here? I saw a trailer for a movie, and I won't say what the movie is, but it's coming out soon. And it was gorgeous. And it was gorgeous. It was gorgeous. It was gorgeous. It was like, it's gorgeous. And it made me really depressed. And I was trying to sort of figure out why. I think there was an amazing amount of craft and skill on the part of the filmmakers in this movie, and yet it was the same shit. And I know that this movie is going to do really well. And I know that the people who made it are going to get rewarded for it. And so the cycle continues. So I think the danger of craft is that it needs to be in second position to what it is that you're doing. And it's seductive to put it in first position, often because what you're doing is meaningless or worthless or just more of the same. And so you can distinguish yourself by being very, very good at it. I think you need to be willing to be naked when you do anything creatively in film or in any other form. That's really what you have to do. Because otherwise it's very, very hard to separate it from marketing. I think that it just sort of becomes what it's about. The speaker stands on the stage. He looks out at the audience. He doesn't really know why he's here. Not really. More and more in his life, he finds himself in places he can't explain, not really explain. He knows he's here to give a speech, and he's told himself he intends to do some good with it. But he knows that reason crumbles to dust under investigation. What he wants is to change who he is. Each predicament, such as this one, each challenge he accepts in order to move him to the next level of truthfulness. Each time he goes in hoping he will come out a real person. He knows if he just takes enough risks, eventually he will be something that lives a real life. Sweat forms on his brow. How did I know? It's amazing. You know, because I wrote this a week ago, so sad. Pools under his arms. It is, but I won't show you. He can feel it dripping down his sleeves, further moistening his clammy hands. Actually, my hands aren't clammy. They don't get clammy. That's one of my blessings. The only part, for some reason. Well, it's wet now, but that's because I rubbed my forehead. He is to speak on a subject. He has been chosen as an expert, but the subject is unclear to him, and he's lonely, is the truth in it. He feels trapped under burdens so immense. The history he carries, the thwarted relationships, the compromised relationships, the longing that drapes him like a shroud, the want. He is a wanting machine, ever wanting. He looks out at the audience. They don't know what to make of him. Why is he reading this story up there? He is to be giving a speech about screenwriting. Someone in the audience is happy. A train wreck is in progress, and he is witnessing it. The speaker knows this. He believes he has considered every possible audience reaction. He wants to be liked by them. He wants to be admired and adored. He wants to be found attractive. He hates himself for this. This is the stuff that it always comes down to. And his goal here tonight was to be different. He wants to be real in this contrived place. But he can't be. The truth suddenly stares him in the face. This is who he is. This is the real him, this needy, wanting thing, up here for the same aggrandizement as everyone else who does this. Look at me. But the pain and hollowness is real. The pain that stretches back into the haze that is his childhood. He leaves. That's it. It's nothing like anything he has ever done. He walks off the stage. People have paid money, he thinks, as he leaves. This will be on YouTube. I am finished. This life I lived until this point is now different forever, just by walking off the stage. Will they refuse to pay for my hotel room now? For my flight home? This was a terrible mistake. Maybe I can go back, he considers. Maybe I can say I needed to get something backstage. He looks around, grabs a water bottle, and heads back to the lectern. He tells the audience he needed some water and to please forgive the interruption. He pantomimes surprise when he sees that there is already water on the lectern. He makes a joke about all that water, something self-deprecating, the usual stuff he is known for, eunuchy and easy. He gets a laugh, and he's back in the comfort zone, back in Fakeville. And he's ashamed, but he's got to make it through. So he pulls all the old standbys on his subject of expertise, and he does his creaky, modest bit, and he gets through it. He's played the game, and he's changed nothing in himself for the world. But the people who brought him here seem satisfied. He's despairing. He had thought about this evening for months. The importance of it in his head had become unwieldy. He would change course with this lecture. This would be the real him revealed for the first time, and then he would be free. And now it's over, and it's all the same. He returns to his hotel and sits at the bar. There is no hope left. I read an article about bullying recently. Everyone is up in arms about bullying. A vocal minority thinks it's a good thing. That it's part of growing up, that it builds character. What was left out of this article, and doesn't seem to be part of the discussion, is that bullying is a significant element of our culture. The bullying of children by children doesn't come from nowhere. The question remains whether bullying is an inherent aspect of human nature, but that doesn't change the fact that a culture that discourages rather than encourages bullying would have a better chance of curbing it. Our culture is marketing. This is what we do. And what is marketing? Trying to get people to do what you want them to. It's what drives our consumer culture. It's what drives our politics. It's what drives our art. Music, movies, books, fine arts. It's part of every research grant proposal. I don't want to participate. I don't want to tell you how to sell a screenplay or tell you how to write a hit or tell you how to fit into the existing system. I want to tell you that I have a hope, that there's another way to be in this world, and that I believe with courage and vulnerability and honesty that the stuff we put into the world can serve a better purpose. The way movies work now, and I'm talking about mainstream industry, the only goal is to get you to buy a product. The only goal, the only goal, the only goal, the only goal. And this intention creates the movies that we sit through. And the movies that we sit through create us. In government, we've been reduced to the same game. Through trickery, obfuscation, bullying, fear-mongering, the goal of marketing a candidate is achieved. I don't understand many things. I don't know as much as I'd like about anything. But I'm a human being, and I won't be in competition for the right to be treated decently. I won't play that game, nor should anybody have to. And in turn, I will try not to use whatever access I have to the public sphere to sell things, including myself. The world is very scary now. It always has been, but something grotesque and specific to our time is blanketing us. We need to see that it is not reality. It is a choice we're making or allowing other people to make for us. I sincerely hope that I have something of interest or value to say tonight. I can't tell anyone how to write a screenplay, because the truth is that anything of value you might do comes from you. The way I work is not the way that you work, and the whole point of any creative act is that. What I have to offer is me. What you have to offer is you. And if you offer yourself with authenticity and generosity, I will be moved. You are born into a body, into a family, into a situation, into a brain chemistry, into a gender, into a culture, into a time. as am I. At times I can feel the massive gravitational pulling of all these various things, pulling me in different directions, creating me. I watch the reactions I have that are as much my father's as they are mine. I know they are inherited through genes and situation, just as they have been from my father. And I feel immense loneliness of this prison, coupled with a great shame because I can see that this prison has an open door, but I can't get through it. How weak I am. How can I not be a saner person, a healthier person, a more generous person? My sneaker company tells me that I can, and that it's up to me. It is a sign of great weakness if I don't just do it. And these are the priests of our culture, the therapists, the dad with a firm hand but your best interest at heart, a sneaker company that runs sweatshops in third world countries. This is our dad. And I don't know about you, but I can be moved to tears by these commercials that these people put out. And I think it's despicable. Allow yourself the freedom to change as you discover. I'm like dripping. It's like I'm watching it rain off of me. You know, it's not only nerves, it is actually hot up here. So, but this wool suit, which I wore because I was told London is a chilly place. You know, it's not working. Really bad. But I don't know what would work. I need like a suit made out of, like, what is that stuff that's got holes in it? You know, that athletes wear sometimes. Mesh stuff. A mesh suit would be good. Allow yourself the freedom to change as you discover. Allow your screenplay to grow and change as you work on it. You will discover things as you work. You must not put these things aside, even if they are inconvenient. Let's not disregard all the little voices in order to simplify. Do not simplify. Let's not worry about what it looks like. Let's not worry about failure. Failure is a badge of honor. It means you risked failure. And if you don't risk failure, you're never going to do anything that's different than what you've already done or what somebody else has done. And just know that that's the choice you're making when you won't put yourself at jeopardy like that. Don't compartmentalize to make things simpler than they are. And don't work towards results. Allow yourself time. Let things brew. You're thinking about it, whether you realize it or not. Letting the unconscious take over brings in freedom and surprise and removes judgment. At every single moment, every single person wants something. Often many things. Often conflicting things. Understand this about your characters and yourself. Storytelling is inherently dangerous. If you consider a traumatic event in your life, consider it as you experienced it. Now think about how you told it to someone a year later. Now think about how you told it for the 100th time. It's not the same thing. A few components enter into the change. One is perspective. Most people think perspective is a good thing to have in a story. You can figure out character arcs. You can apply a moral. You can tell it from a distance with understanding and context. The problem is that this perspective is a misrepresentation of the incident. It's a reconstruction with meaning, and as such bears very little resemblance to the event. The other thing that happens in storytelling is the process of adjustment for the audience over time. You find out which part of the story works, which parts to embellish, which parts to jettison. You fashion it. Your goal, your reasons for telling it, are to be entertaining, to garner sympathy. This is true for a story told at a dinner party, and it's true for stories told in movies. I'm sifting through now to see if there's stuff I should not. What do you mean? Oh, so I should stop soon. Should I stop soon? Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll do this part now because this sort of relates. There's a little bit of like scattered here. So in relation to that, don't let anyone tell you what a story is, what it needs to include, what form it must take. As an experiment, go out of your way to write a non-story. It will still be a story. but it will have a chance of being a different story. Our brains make story. It is as basic to us as breathing. We cannot do otherwise. Free yourself, and by extension, the rest of us, with your efforts. If you give yourself too specific an assignment, you will keep yourself locked away from your work. Go where it takes you. If you say you want to write about homeless people and in the end reveal their humanity, you'll end up with something illustrative and perhaps instructive. If you say there aren't words to put this moan I feel in me, but I'm going to swim in it and see what happens, you'll end up with something real. But you'll have to throw away any predetermined notion of what real is. It doesn't mean you'll end up with $1 million screenplay or that critics will love it. You can write to that if that's your goal. In the process, you might lose track of who you are, but that's okay. They'll assign you an identity. With a screenplay, you're creating a world. Consider everything, every character, every room, every juxtaposition, every increment of time as an embodiment of that world. Look at all of this through that filter and make sure it is all consistent. As in a painting, every element is part of one whole composition. Just as there is nothing separate in the actual world, there should be nothing separate in the world you create. This is like a little thing that I wrote that's just a personal thing for me. So and it's very I don't know. Well, you'll see. But I hate this, and so I'm just going to share with you that I hate it. Do not write jokes to your readers in your stage directions. You know what I mean by that? People do that. Don't do that. Your job is to create an atmosphere. You're trying to establish a mood. You're writing a story. And what you're trying to do with that story is you're trying to help this large group of people who are going to come together to understand the tone and the spirit and the feeling of this movie so that they can come together and make it. And that's what you should spend your time on, not with winks and stuff, not winking at people. This is all gold, by the way, but I'm... But some of us I've covered. I tell you this little story now because it's interesting to me, and I don't know why I'm telling it, but it's interesting to me, and it's sort of, it just seems like there's something inherently cinematic about it. I run in my neighborhood, and one day I ran past this guy who was running in the other direction, an older guy, and big, hulky kind of guy, really struggling to huffing and puffing. And I was kind of going down a slight hill, and he was coming up the hill, but it was very slight. And he's wearing like a headband and he's sweatshirt, and so he passes me and he goes, "Well, sure, it's all downhill that way." And and I love that. I love that joke, because it's funny, because it's a funny joke, and he made a connection, and it was like a witty thing to say. And so I had in my head that I like this guy. This is a cool guy, and he's my friend now. And so like a few weeks later, I'm passing by him again. I see him in the distance coming toward me, and we're going opposite ways. And I'm thinking, oh, there's the guy, that's cool. And so as we pass each other, he says, "Well, sure, it's all downhill that way." And I was like, oh, okay, he's got a repertoire, and he doesn't know. I mean, I'm not that special. He's probably said it to other people. Maybe he doesn't remember me. Maybe he doesn't remember. He's an older guy. Maybe there's some, And so, but okay, ha 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 ha. I laugh. But this time it was a little forced, my laugh, because I got all these things going on in my head. I'm disappointed. And then I pass him again. And he says it again. And this time, he's going downhill. And I'm going uphill. And so like it doesn't even make any sense anymore. It's not about anything. And I started to have so much pain about this because I'm embarrassed for him, and there's something wrong with him, I think. And then it just keeps happening, and it's all downhill that way. Probably heard it 7 or 8 more times, and I start to avoid him. I see him coming, and I cross the street because and if I can't cross the street, then I look like I'm really focused on my running, and he says it anyway if he passes me, and even if I'm not looking, and I don't know why I'm telling you the story, except that I like the idea that it changes over time, and nothing has changed. What's changed is all in my head, and has to do with a realization on my character's part through time of there's no outward story here, and it can only be told in a form. It can't be told in a painting, I guess is the point I'm making. I wouldn't know how to do that, and I think that that's sort of. I mean, I'm probably reaching here to sort of say this, but I do think that that when you're doing a movie, when you're doing a screenplay, you have to know why it's a movie. And if it doesn't have to be a movie, then you shouldn't make it. Because it's very important that what you do is specific to the medium in which you're doing it, and that you utilize what's specific about that medium to do the work. And if you can't think about why it should be done this way or needs to be done this way, then it doesn't need to be done this way. And then you should figure out what it is about this, if you want to do it, that needs to be told in the form of a movie. So I wanted to say that. I hope he doesn't, I think about YouTube. I really do think about it, because, this stuff just ends up on there, and then everybody in the world says what a jerk you are, or whatever, and it's a very weird thing to think about. That's the thing that you're contending with when you come and do anything in public. This other sort of element of sort of mindless aggression that exists on the internet, and